Man, what a weekend. 6 dives straight on the KB.
All aboard Lionfish 4, anchored right over the top of the dive site with really, really good surface conditions.
Yeah.
And pretty good viz, not sensational, but really, really lovely conditions for doing so many dives consecutively over just 4 days.
You're not wrong. And here's our first dive. You know, there's Beck, there's Andrew, and you can see Paul as well in the breather down the bottom right, our resident wobbies. And it was just fantastic to straight away hit this colourful, fantastic wreck.
The top of the wreck sits in 26 metres, and those wobbies were there virtually every day, weren't they? Just patrolling, watching out over the top of the wreck.
And this was great, being able to go straight through the actual guts of the wreck and get to the bottom and find some crayfish.
Well, you know I love finding crayfish.
And Andrew McGuckin catching crayfish instead of skippering the boat. Oh, here we are. We can see the map of the KB and the X marks the spot where we are near the crane. Paul Gamma, 40 minutes, no deco time. He is just absolutely wrapped on that. Becky's just wrapped because...
narcosis, I'd suggest.
Oh, I love it. Oh, now, who's this guy?
Well, whoever he is enjoying it, and he's got a cray loop in his hand, so that's always a good start. Buff brim, as you'd always see along the West Australian coast, schools and schools of buff brim. And really, the inside of the wreck is really starting to deteriorate now. It's been down there since 1983, and lots of the inside of the wreck is far more accessible than it used to be.
Yeah, I can remember going back years ago. One of the first times I was on there, and it has changed a fair bit because it is a lot more open, like you said. Oh, I have to feel sorry for this little Port Jackson. I've come along with my video lights, and poor bugger's a little bit on the blind side, just trying to get away from me. However, he was nice enough to lead us to his buddy over there. So there was another PJ just sitting in the background. And so I thought, well, if I blinded one, I may as well blind another one. So, as you do.
And this PJ was a little bit more accommodating for you anyway, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. So, it took us how long? About 6 hours to get up there from Freo, didn't it?
Yeah, well, those of us who were lucky enough to travel up on the boat from Fremantle and spend the entire 4 days on the boat. 6 hour journey up. We did a dive on the way up as well, and then set the mooring on the Key Biscayne.
If I have Paul Gamma showing off his damn rebreather one more time, I think I'm going to have to just cut it all out. What's the red flashing on the rebreather?
Yeah, I think that signals that Paul's where he shouldn't be, but that was a well-planned exercise, I believe, so with sort of some safety built into that.
Yeah, I have to... Oh, there we go. Just a bit of a change of subject. That's the container that's at the side of the wreck there. Another big wobby. But, yeah, getting back to Paul, although he may have had a flashing red light, the reality is all of our 6 dives, all 8 dives in actual fact, were planned decompression dives, and he had his spare cylinder hanging off him, as you can see onto the left there. And, oh, look at him pirouetting. What a dancer. Loving his rebreather. But I'm rather envious, to be honest with you, because he spent 8 days using 2 scuba tanks and decantering into his 2 small ones. I had 9 cylinders that I brought along with me, and I had to get them topped up on the Saturday night. So, you know, I was very, very envious. So, yeah, good one, Paul.
It was minimal effort, wasn't it?
Some of these corals, can you remember the names of these?
Yeah, there's the yellow pollet one is Faulkner's coral, and that sort of shows like little flowers all budding out.
Gotta love those batfish, and check out the buff brim. Again, X marks the spot. So this is the pipes at the back of the KB or the Key Biscayne. There's just so much stuff strewn across the bottom, and I love the maze here.
The southern side is just an absolute maze of just debris and big jewfish as well. Lots and lots of jewfish. They're just lovely. Look at this one in comparison to Paul. He's got the rebreather on. He's a fairly hefty sized fellow anyway.
Oh yeah.
You'll hate me saying that, but that jewfish is a hefty jewfish.
Oh, just check him out.
And it was lovely to see so many jewfish there and big family groups, along with whole family groups of nurse sharks.
Oh yeah, the nurses, they, without a doubt, the nurses were my favourite for the trip. Was that the Sambo on the left?
Yeah, I think it's Sambo cruising through.
From memory, I've dived this particular spot, and I think that's about the deepest part of the Key Biscayne. It's around 42.5 metres for those who like to put their computers down into the deepest parts.
The depth junkies down there with the black coral all hanging off the side of the wreck. Absolutely glorious. There's all of the drill pipe that's strewn all over the ground as the Key Biscayne's turned over and rolled upside down and landed on her head essentially, and collapsed all the superstructure, and collapsed one of the legs underneath her, and then the other legs are all laying out sort of in a north-northeasterly direction from the main body of the jack-up oil rig.
This is actually a trick spot on the Key Biscayne. When people ascend and think that they've come to where we've marked X, this is not the point where the actual anchor line is attached to. It's one of the other spots, it's one of the other high spots on the wreck, and it's a bit of a swim to the, if you just keep following that along, you will get to the other high spot at 26 metres, and of course that's where we generally tie off to and do our ascents and descents. But check out the size of this wobby compared to Paul. Look at the size of Paul's breather and look at the width of the head of that wobbegong.
It's a mammoth wobby, isn't it? It's just, and they were all over the wreck.
Yes, Paul. Yes, you're a big okay. We know that the red light's just telling you where you shouldn't be, but it was a lot of fun actually crawling in around all of this, wasn't it?
Like I said, you can get in and out of the backside of the wreck there now, which is lovely. Lots of crayfish in there as well. That's one of the holes from the one of the legs, and you can see the teeth there where the jack up legs would be gear driven up and down when this oil rig was formerly working.
We're fairly fortunate, well, it's not very fortunate for the actual company that owned the oil rig. I mean, it was, sunk in 1st of September 1983, 10 miles off Lancelin, while being towed down the WA coast to be refitted. And we're fortunate that we've got something reasonably close to Perth, but difficult enough to get to so that it's not done too often, so that it's not overdived. And having 6 dives in a row over 4 days, being able to see different sites, planning the dives and going to different parts was just fantastic. We can see here how many divers were there. This would have been on the Saturday, I believe. Yeah,
it was a luxury for us having those consecutive dives over consecutive days, and for me, the change in conditions over those 4 days was quite remarkable. In that we had days with very little current, we had days which the water temperature rose and it was quite a great deal warmer on the Sunday, and a complete glass off on the surface. And then on the Monday, the fish life just were there 4 times as much as they had been over the previous 3 days, and a bit cooler water. But that was a stunning dive on the Monday where there was just so much fish life.
I have to admit, I'm not keen on doing repetitive dives in 22-degree water, 23-degree water, but it was toasty. It was toasty. It was no dramas taking on and off the 5mm suit, no need for an undergarment. Paul and I were averaging our dives. We were doing typically about 35 to 40-minute bottom times, with approximately 20 minutes worth of deco on most of them. And it was just fantastic. And there's the wobby beside your lovely beck there, and wow, it just looks even bigger. It was good getting inside the wreck as well, like this. 1 second you're outside, you've got a big hole, you crawl inside, and bang! Check out all the bullseyes.
Oh, and I got into some really dark holes on this trip, and there's so much of the panelling inside, all the different holes all started to deteriorate and corrode away, that you're getting these little glimpses of light all through the really old dark sections of the wreck.
Yeah, check out the coral on top. Can you remember the name of some of that coral?
Oh look, there's just some gorgonian and whip corals through there. Lovely colour though, lovely colours right across the wreck.
Yeah. This would have been the end of the first dive on Saturday, and now this is actually the beginning of our second dive on Saturday. So over the 4-day trip, this was the third on the KB, fourth for the actual trip, but third for the KB, and you know, we started concentrating on the legs. So yeah, Paul and I basically buddied up for the entire 8 dives, made sure that all the plans were, you know, planned our dives, dived our plans, and check this out, you know, the grey nurse sharks, they were the highlight of the trip.
Yeah, well, there would have been approximately 15 individual sharks sighted over the weekend, and
yeah, sounds about right.
We've seen video clips now from people on this trip that have 7 or 8 grey nurse in one shot at one time, and they were the highlight, weren't they? They're just so graceful. They were so plentiful and large size grey nurse shark.
And I loved going through these massive legs. This is actually going back towards the wreck rather than away. So that shot there, Paul and I had swum all the way to the end of one of the legs, turned around. So we're going back towards the KB, and we're greeted by a family of Jewies.
And footballer sweep, the little yellow stripy ones.
And the grey nurse. Now, it's a little bit sad to see this one with the fishing line hanging off him like that, but I don't think anyone was ready to tackle him to try and get rid of that line.
Now, as docile as they may be, the teeth still sort of cast some doubts in the back of your mind.
Oh yeah, yeah. I truly felt so lucky to get that close, that often on this particular trip. I mean, there we are down at the bottom, 42 metres. The visibility could have been a bit better, but hey, we still had spectacular diving. Right now we're looking at 1, 2, 3. We saw a third one going off to the right. There's another fourth. I'm not sure. Do you have any idea what fish are actually following and schooling around the sharks at all, Andrew?
Brave little fish. And there was that one shark where it had that little school of bait fish that would follow it, and only that particular shark.
So here, Andrew, we've got that was the
sweep.
That was the school sweep,
yes,
was it?
Yeah, the sweep, the banded
that one's
sweep.
The banded sweep. I thought the others were skippy, and there's Paul happy again. Andrew? What's in your bag there, mate?
Oh, I'd say the catch bag is brimming with dinner.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of nice evenings, didn't we? There. Yeah. After work hours had finished, on the beach in Lancelin, enjoying some seafood, courtesy of the Key Biscayne. Key Biscayne.
So we're back up on the top here, and
that was Nigel Barker with some video.
Yes.
So, and our mooring line.
So at the moment, looks like we're starting to head back down the wreck. I'm just trying to figure out the timing here. This would have been the last dive on Sunday, I think. Or the first dive on Sunday. But so we've got another Port Jackson sitting down the bottom, being harassed by me with the lights.
They are very photogenic.
They are. They certainly are. And you've got to look around as well. There's not just the PJs down the bottom, but there's all the life, the marine life, as far as the small fish, the actual corals.
So I've got to mention the coil of 8 strand. There's a coil of 8 strand mooring line on that big spool there.
Just to the right there of the...
Yeah, and huge diameter rope, and there's a whole roll just sitting there. And expensive gear, lots of expensive gear just lying around on the bottom of the ocean. You know that they say that there was a safe full of money and diamonds on the Key Biscayne when it went down, and it's still buried there somewhere.
So someone's going to have to try and find it, but with guys like this patrolling it, you've got to think twice. That is so graceful, watching the grey nurse just cruising up and down patrolling. under here is where quite often you get lots of the good sized crows. Hey,
There were lots and lots. You see the little starfish just sitting there as well. And a sinker. Lots of sinkers. Obviously a popular fishing site there. If you notice the lead sinker there. I know Paul came back with a pocket full every day.
Boarfish.
The boarfish.
You got to love that. Dewey, boarfish, and a PJ all in the one shot. It doesn't matter where you turn. It was just a privilege to have so many dives in a row. It was great.
Aren't they awesome? So different.
I've been on other dives where the visibility far surpassed this particular trip. However, being able to do, as I've said quite often, 6 dives in a row was just amazing. How many dives did you manage to do on the KB while we were there?
Just one less than everyone else. I sat one of them out. That was all. So, but I suppose that lack of visibility, or the lower visibility, creates a little bit more intrigue and a little bit more what's around that next corner to the dive. That that gloominess there is sets the scene a little bit, and you can see the little oysters, encrusting oysters around the lip of that pipe there.
Oh, this was where Paul almost got totally stuck, but I managed to pull him out. Yeah, you can thank me later, Paul. So they're
I think there's some pulleys there, but I think that was the find of the whole trip, wasn't it? Paul's a very lucky fella there with the grey nurse tooth.
Yeah, very good catch there. Very good catch, mate.
He was rather chuffed, wasn't he?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, who have we got there? We've got... Hang on, is that Nick?
That was Grant.
Grant,
yes. There's Jess, the cook extraordinaire on Line Fish 4. Cooks all our lunches.
Oh,
There's the boss, Mr. Jones.
Oh, it was just so... On the last day's diving, it was so clean on the inside.
The old wives.
Yeah.
And the fish life. And here's where we mentioned before, the fish life. And this was the last dive on the Monday before we headed back down to Perth. And just look at that. It was just teeming with fish. And so many different species there.
Oh, what a dive.
Wrasse.
I have no idea. We would have spent probably 15, 20 minutes trying to figure out what sort of coral is on top of the Key Biscayne. And it looks, we call it cauliflower sponge, but couldn't find the actual name of the sponge on the top there. Oh, check that out. Side by side.
Yep, standing guard over the Key Biscayne.
I love the banded beard they have. It looks so cool.
Oh, those filly lips. Yeah.
And here we've got skivvy.
No, I think they're all salmon actually. I was contemplating that whilst we were down there.
And the bait fish over there to the right.
And Paul harassing the wobbies. And I don't know if you noticed with those wobbies, one was dark and one was a lighter coloured. And haven't been able to confirm it, but I'd like to know whether or not one's male, one's female.
Bit of lacking of colour in the footage that we're looking at there with the grey nurse, but once we're talking about 40 metres in depth, it's at a distance during daylight. Colour correction filters don't want to work. Very, very hard to get right colour. We've got the lights on right there. You can see as the shark's coming in, it's nicely lit up. Oh, look at that. 1 shark, 2 sharks. We've got a few more coming up in a second, I believe. And on the legs, just look at the amount of different coral on those legs.
We're right up and down the west coast. We're just blessed to have such a variety of the soft corals, the hard corals, the encrusting coralline algae, those sorts of things, which just give all the reef structures up and down the coast here so much colour and so much interest. It just keeps us all very, very interested with every dive we do. And how's that? The white-black coral.
So we've got the black coral in front of us with 3 grey nurses in the background. We've got another grey nurse underneath us, and so that was the one I was filming a second ago. So that's 4. And if we look in the distance, there's a 5th to the left. That one we're looking at now was the one we were videoing a minute ago. So there was at least 5 grey nurse sharks in that one spot. Oh, I love the shots from underneath like that. They just look so menacing, but they are so beautiful and so graceful.
Well, if you go to the aquarium, you see there that type of shot with the shark swimming over your head whilst you're standing in a perspex tunnel, but it's so much better to be in the water with them.
Oh, I could not agree more. Could not agree more. Also gives, when you see a shark of that size in one of those legs, or 2 sharks that we're looking at the moment, it really gives you some idea on how big those legs really are on the Key Biscayne.
Yeah, they're probably good 6 or 7 metres from across the one section of those triangular legs.
And do you know the names of these? I think those fish were dinner, breakfast and lunch.
I was going to say, yeah, Mum, Dad, the whole family.
Yeah. And again, the white-black coral, there's so much of it on the Key Biscayne. For those listening, the black coral, that was actually used to make jewellery in days gone by, and was of great value. It still is of great value, but I'd hate to think anyone going down there to actually pull the black coral off the Key Biscayne.
Square cave in the background, being patrolled and guarded by the another grey nurse shark. With all the spots, I spent a bit of time watching some of these grey nurse, and the spots down their side are very, very unique.
Quite graceful looking from above, looking at the PJs swimming along like that, eh? Especially in amongst all that rubble.
You almost see where some of the designs for planes and things like that come from when you see things like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a great 4 days worth of diving.
It was brilliant. We look forward to doing it again. It's I think the next trip will be just as successful, because the Key Biscayne is just one of those dive sites that just keeps delivering.
I'm Joseph the Mechanic.
And I'm Andrew McGuckin, the skipper of the boat.
So thank you very much for those of you watching, and hope you enjoyed the Key Biscayne, and maybe you'll join us out there one day.
Look forward to it.